Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back. You have stumbled upon Tony Defio and myself, Brian Anthony Davis, and it is what is that, Tony? That's actually pretty cool.
Weeks.
What is that?
3
weeks. He's excited. Like he's jumping the gun. He's excited because he knows that the BTSC family of podcasts will be getting ready in 3 weeks from right about now. We'll be 2 hours away. 3 weeks and 2 hours away from the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants. But there's so much to cover on the BTSC family of podcasts, and you have stumbled on the Q&A. It's the Steelers Q&A. It's your chance for us to ask a question, and then we answer ourselves, and then we try to get you to ask questions, and that's what we do in the second half of the show. As we look at the live chat, some great friends just pouring in. Jared Devils here, Brad Jewett, Ryan O'Toole, Ezra, Logan DiLorenzo, T Money, Aaron, Just Me, and Kathy from Kansas, Kathy checking in. It's great to see all of our friends here. I know more will be coming in, and let's say it right now because he's coming in. He always comes in late, but he always comes in with a what's goody. We know Marv's going to be in too. So what's goody, friends? Hey, one of us, Big Bro Sco, is also here. Big Bro is in the house. You can catch him tomorrow night on the Sco Bro show, as Behind the Steel Curtain has you covered. Look, just about a month or two ago, you would come on here. We'd have one podcast a day. How many do we have now, Tony?
2 a day sometimes. We have the just Let's Ride in the morning with Jeff Hartman, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
we have
our retro shows on Tuesday.
Retro shows on Tuesday morning.
Stat Geek on Thursday. But now we have an extra show because when the Steelers are in pads, Jeff Hartman's going on as soon as he gets it out in the evening. It's the camp recap. So be looking on the podcast platform, anywhere where you could stream anything. Behind the Steel Curtain, just look for BTSC Radio and get those camp reviews. So, and we break up these shows. The Q&A tomorrow will be broken up into 2 parts. So it's 4 things you could possibly download. And Tony, you don't want to be driving around in your sled and looking around, trying to look at our faces and get mesmerized by how goofy we look. Not you. I'm just talking about myself because you're a handsome man. But what I'm saying is you don't want to be distracted. You can just, hey, if you're at the gym, listen to us. If you're in the car, listen to us. If you're hanging out with that special lady and you need some extra voices in your head, we will be your Cyranos. And so just listen to us when you're on a date too. Well, don't go that far. That's a bad date. You're not going to get a second one. But Tony, you and I know all about second dates. So
right.
There you go. Let's get into it though today, Tony. Anything happened special in Steelerland today? I know James Washington talked to the media. That's a good thing. I know Tom Bradley also talked to the media as well. But is there anything that popped up on your radar screen today, Tony?
Nothing unusual, which I guess is good, right? I mean, this time of year, you don't want to hear about injuries. You just want to hear about great progress being made. And I know Ben had the day off, Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback, and I think that wasn't for any other reason than the fact that he's older. David DeCastro, I know he was finally in pads. I heard that. So nothing unusual. I mean, not directly in Steeler Nation, maybe outside of Steeler Nation, there was some intriguing news.
If you're talking about the Cleveland Browns and one of their top picks, their second pick, Mr. Grant Delpit going down was it an ACL tear, Tony? I just saw it before we came on the show.
I saw it as a possible Achilles tear, but either way, it's a pretty major.
That's right.
It's a pretty major injury.
That's a big deal, and he's a tough player. There's a lot of people that were talking about him as possible first pick for the Steelers with their second round at 49, but he went beforehand. So yeah, lots of injuries, unfortunately, today. Logan says Dupree got banged up, but finished practice. That's something that I did not know about. Also, in practice today, we saw the return of David DeCastro. So that's good news because he hasn't had pads on yet for the first week. Not that we worry about a seasoned veteran like DeCastro, but makes you wonder why he was sitting out. Was he one of the false positives? Steelers had 6 false positives yesterday. I mean, and that could be anything, but false positives make you kind of wonder what's going on. It was mentioned, I believe it was Ryan O'Toole said, how about the 77 false positives for the virus? I guess that was around the league. So, a lot of false positives, but hopefully they are going to, get that all cleaned up. And that's not something that happens on Saturday before game day or Sunday morning before game day, because that would be absolutely, gosh, we'd be talking lawsuits and we'd be there would be a mess.
That would be devastating.
Yeah, gosh, wow, that would be incredible. Probably the biggest news, and I'm going to bring up Brad Jewett here, who says, "Bye-bye, Earl," and that did not happen today. That happened over the weekend, and that is really what the first part of our show is about today. So if you're wondering what the title was, and the title is simply this, Steelers Q&A, would the Steelers risk locker room discord for another ring, Tony? And I'm talking about guys like Earl Thomas, even Antonio Brown. I'm talking, would, after the Steelers went through the Antonio Brown drama in 2018, and who knows how long they've dealt with that drama,
right?
Okay, would they actually risk it again to bring in a guy the caliber of Earl Thomas? Because hey, he's a 7-time Pro Bowler, he's a 3-time first team All-Pro, and look, let me just throw this out there: we're not talking about the salary cap, because I mean, I'm sure the salary cap's a mess for the Steelers, but it wasn't in good shape when they had an opportunity to bring Joe Hayden in, and they found a way to make that work. So let's just keep the salary cap out of there.
Right.
But when you get an opportunity to see a guy like this, what happens? Everybody jumps like crazy and goes, "Oh, we got to get Earl Thomas. We've got to get Eric Berry. We've got to get anytime somebody is available, we got to get Joe Hayden."
Right.
And that's what happened. I mean, they went out and got Joe Hayden, and that's very rare that they do that. But Joe Hayden was a special situation. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a special situation. All these other situations out there, you get cut for a reason, Tony.
Right.
If you're available right now, and there's something, there's a story behind the story. So, Tony, what's the story behind Mr. Earl Thomas III?
Exceptional player, one of the best at his position on the field, but off the field, I mean, these are things I didn't even realize until the weekend. I mean, I knew about the giving the middle finger to his head coach a couple years ago, Pete Carroll. I knew about that, but everything else, like the orgies and being late to team meetings, then of course knocking out his teammate Chuck Clark. There's a lot of baggage there, and if you're a Steeler fan, if you're a Steeler player, you've been through that pretty recently with one Antonio Brown, and years before that, there were a lot of other small problems that they had that they were trying to weed out. So if you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, and in the days of Mike Mitchell and maybe, even though he was a good guy, Sean Davis, and that secondary was considered a weakness for this team, and maybe they needed one piece to maybe put it over the top. Maybe you risk it for a year. You're Mike Tomlin. He's Mr. Players coach. All the players around the league love him. They always vote for him as the guy that they'd love to play for the most. Maybe you can get through for a year, and but not now. No, because first of all, they don't need him anymore. Their defense is so good now. They have so many great pieces. You mentioned Joe Hayden and Minkah and Steven Nelson, and the weak link, as we always say, is Terrell Edmonds, and he may be coming a lot long. So no, you don't. would I risk it now? No, but it's a great thing when you have such a talented roster now. You don't need to worry about a guy like Earl Thomas. You're not desperate for him.
You aren't desperate for him, and that's the number one thing. And Tony, I want to thank you because you became the second BTSC podcaster besides me to use the word orgy on any show. And it's something that just doesn't happen very often, but and it's just a funny word. I mean,
yeah,
take away what it even means, just the sound orgy just is funny.
Or like Grady Wilson said, orgy.
Grady Wilson from, come on, you got to let people know who Grady Wilson is.
Sanford and Son.
Grady Wilson was really funny, and he had a six episode spinoff of Sanford and Son with Grady, and I guess he moved in with his family.
Right.
I'm gonna have to look up to see if I can find one of those episodes on YouTube because Grady was really funny.
Oh yeah,
wow! So
one of the great characters ever in sitcom history.
I love that you brought him up, and that song I sang, the theme song from Sanford and Son. Who did that song? Who's
Quincy
responsible
Jones.
for that song? Look at the big brain on Tone Deaf.
Sitcoms, man. TV in general, especially from the 70s and the 80s. I'm all over it.
I saw you. I hope you don't mind me bringing up your social media, but I saw something yesterday. Am I allowed to bring this up? Because I got a big chuckle.
Oh, go right ahead. Oh yeah.
Okay, so Tony put something about going out on a date with a woman and finding out that all he's interested in sports and she doesn't like that. And you said what, Tony?
I also love sitcoms. I have depth. It's not just football. Come on,
Steelers and Sanford and Son.
I'm
ladies. Worldly. Come on. Yeah, I mean that's a recipe for a lovely night. Dinner, Sanford and Son and the Steelers. Talk to Tony. Go out with Tony. That's awesome.
Talk about sexy.
Yeah. the ladies are lining up through the monitor right now.
Right.
If you were 30 years younger, I'd let you date my daughter. But actually, my daughter's no, I still wouldn't let you date my daughter because you still wouldn't be you'd still be too old. But you're the kind of guy that I'd let date my daughter. But I digress. We're going back to as we do, we have fun, we get off topic. And but yes, the only reason we're bringing up the famed orgy from Earl Thomas III because that made his wife, I guess. Was it his wife or his girlfriend? It was his wife.
His wife, yeah.
Put a gun to his head. And the incident, he was doing this with his brother, so he kept that in the family. And but it was enough for the Ravens reportedly to go ahead and see if they can get rid of him then, to see if that was a violation of his contract. Apparently it wasn't, because this freelancing that he does has frustrated so many teammates. And it has been a situation where a lot of people didn't want him around because his play has fallen off. He still had a good season. He had a really good season last year. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people were upset about missing tackles in the playoffs against the Tennessee Titans. Right. But the problem with Earl Thomas is all this freelancing, this me first attitude, like I'm going to do my thing. I don't care what the team is doing. We've seen that with Antonio Brown here. The Ravens were sick of it. So when he's throwing a punch, they're like, boom, we got it. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. You did exactly what we wanted. And for John Harbaugh to say, yeah, I didn't really see it, and I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. I mean, but Eric DeCosta's there is like, thanks. Now we can let him go. And with a conduct detrimental that they withhold money, and there's some things that they're going to have to figure out. I'm sure there's going to be some mediation here because they're going to be fighting. But Christian Cahill says freelancer on and off the field. And I have people. I love this. Javman says the thing that Bad says, and he isn't Mr. 2 a.m. for nothing. Says Logan. I don't even know what I said. I don't even know.
Although I will say this about Earl Thomas and the fact that the Ravens are serious contenders. It says a lot about him, and that his teammates said that the leadership council, which I assume are Ravens players, that they said, no, we just want him gone. I mean, because you're this close to maybe winning a Super Bowl, and he's one of your better players, and you're like, we want this guy gone. So that says a lot right there.
Let me bring up Vodka Drinker here, because this is really interesting. I can see Ravens upper management asking a low-level player to start the fight for just that reason.
Well,
could you see that?
No, I mean, the Ravens are, say what you want about them, and I don't like them, but they're a pretty well-run organization, from top to bottom. So I don't see them doing that. But
but can you plant a seed? Can you be like, hey, look, I can't get rid of him, Chuck Clark. But if you wanna start a fight with him and call him out and see if he blows, I mean, maybe you can get what you need. Hey, there's always collusion everywhere, and I can see the Steelers. I can see anybody doing that. But if he's a problem and he wore out his welcome, the Ravens, I applaud the Ravens for doing it. And I also love the fact that the Ravens do lose a player that went to the Pro Bowl last year and was a very good player for them. I mean, even though his play has fallen off, he's still pretty good. And that is a loss for them. I want to bring up Alpha Male 910. Wow. I love that name. Earl Thomas posted their practice on Twitter. That was a fireable offense enough. Thanks for the $4.99. I appreciate the super chat. You can get your super chat in if you wish, and you get to the top of the queue. Alpha Male, you are absolutely correct. I mean, people went, and nobody really said anything about that. Remember when people went crazy when Antonio Brown did the Facebook Live thing? And I was watching it because I used to get a kick out of the Facebook Live things when he did it back then. I would tune into all of them, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's he doing? What is he doing? And but you post the practice on Twitter. Yeah, that's you knew at that point that all right, when he posts that, there's no way they're keeping him. And I love back to what we were saying about Ryan O'Toole says Belichick would do that, tell a player to start a fight so we can cut him. But Belichick would just cut him. I mean, he doesn't care. He's just going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm cutting you. But so, really interesting thing here that he's available. And how many people out there want the Steelers to pick this guy up? I know Ezra said, hey, take him for the season. And I respect Ezra. I respect everybody else that says, you don't need the cancer in the locker room. Right. And that's kind of the situation that you have here. He's definitely a cancer here. Is there a guy out there? Is there a guy anywhere out there that the Steelers would risk locker room discord to go get right now? If he became available. I'm talking anybody, because we didn't know on Friday. We had no clue that Earl Thomas was going to be available starting Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
Or anybody on a different roster. You can say anybody.
It's hard. It's hard to think of anybody other because it seems like they're in pretty decent shape just about everywhere. In terms of starters, maybe a running back, but even then, I'm comfortable with James Conner and now Benny Snell. No, I really can't think of anybody. It's just not. They spend so much time rehabbing their image. I mean, as recently as 2019, even though AB was going out of his way to burn every bridge and in Pittsburgh, there were roundtables, by the national media, ESPN, NFL Network. What's wrong in Pittsburgh? I think this has been Roethlisberger's fault, and blah blah blah. So. I think that they spend so much time rehabbing their image, and if you look at their last 4 or 5 drafts, I mean, when was the last time anybody from any draft class going back to 2016 has gotten into real trouble? So I think they're they vet these players more closely now than they ever did, and they're all about character. And they've proven that you can find really good players that are also really good people. So I think there isn't anybody I can really think of, and I think that says a lot about their talent level too.
I'm going to bring a Brown in here. Anybody that says that has short-term memory loss. Antonio Brown for 9 seasons. How many rings? 0. It would be a regression, and I agree. Mark Tobin is on the other side of the coin, though. He's like, actually, sorry, I brought up the wrong one. Mark Tobin says we can cut them after the season if they want to, laugh out loud. But sign Dez, bring back AB, sign Bell. Who cares? We trying to win. I just think that I'm a big piece of the puzzle type of guy, and I talk about that all the time. I would rather bring in an unknown like Ryan Clark was when the Steelers brought him in 2006. He was virtually unknown. I'd rather bring a guy like that in that could fit the scheme, that's hungry to play, or right. I'd rather keep Terrell Edmonds, who is hungry to play, right? The other day, Ike Taylor said he just needs consistency. It's up to him, but he has consistency issues, and if he can fix that, he'll be in better shape. And you know what? He has a really good camp from what he has had. A really good camp so far from what we have heard. I want to bring up Tate Boys, my good friend Tate Boys here. Jerry Davis, Detroit middle linebacker, first round pick 2 years ago. He can be got for the cheap. And so he was a rookie. I'm going to correct you a little bit. He was a rookie 3 years ago in 2017 when Juju came in too. That's a guy that I think they would have drafted if they would have had the opportunity to get Jared Davis. He's a really good player. He's had some ups and downs in Detroit. That would be a good kind of player to bring in if you can get him on the cheap. Right. And I know he's available. But a lot of people don't want the poison of an Antonio Brown again. They don't want the poison of an Earl Thomas III. And right. But you know what? You know who they do want? Because we found out that he really wasn't much of a poison. A lot of people still want Bell back.
Yeah, I think they inquired about him last year at the trade deadline. Yeah, so a lot of people like that guy. No,
he was young and immature.
Right, and he was all about, he was just trying to get paid, which they're all trying to get paid. It's just he couldn't work anything out here, and he tried to use his leverage as best as he could. And I mean, I don't agree with the fact that he held out of all of 2018, but the training camp stuff, that didn't bother me. That bothered a lot of people that he held out of training camp. But other than the regular season when he held out in 2018, I didn't really have any issue with him. Other than the drug test that he failed or showed up late for and got him suspended. But as far as a person, he seemed like a decent enough guy.
So, you know what? I didn't have a problem with Le'Veon Bell. I might have had more of a problem back then, but when I stopped and looked at it, I don't. I would welcome him back. The problem is he would have to get cut and agree to come back, because you really cannot bring on that contract, because you really can't. But like I said, if anybody's going to find money under the couch cushions, it's going to be Mr. Omar Khan. I just don't think that there's enough under the cushions right now. But that's not really the conversation. We're gonna end this. And with this, before we go to break, this isn't fantasy football. We can't just bring in as much talent as possible and not care about the locker room chemistry. Ryan Kellerman says that. And I think that's the number one thing. Locker room chemistry is the key to it all. Because when you go back to Barry Foster leaving, a superstar, everybody thought it was going to fall apart. They replaced him with 2 guys, Eric Pegram and Bam Morris, went to the Super Bowl. We have seen other superstars leave before. We saw Plexico Burress go, and they won a Super Bowl with Cedric Wilson in his spot.
That's the thing.
Go ahead.
Well, no, it's like I was saying earlier. It's just a matter of how desperate you are to get a player like that. If you think that you need somebody like that to put you over the top, then yeah, maybe you risk it. Maybe you risk it. Maybe you feel like you have good leadership in the locker room, and you obviously have a great leader in Mike Tomlin as your head coach. You go for it. But when you look at their roster now, maybe they don't have an Antonio Brown level player, but they have 3 or 4 really good young receivers, and one of them has already been to a Pro Bowl. Maybe they don't have Le'Veon Bell in the backfield, but they have a pretty good one in James Conner, and it looks like they have a couple other young guys who may be stars in the future. So it's just a matter of desperation, and their defense is so strong now that you can get by with a Terrell Edmonds, who is not really that bad. And as you said, he doesn't even play the same position anyway. As you wrote in your article today, he's a free safety. You have one of the best in the game now, and Micah Fitzpatrick. So,
we do have a tendency to want these big names coming in, but if you're like Mark and Ezra and you would take him in a heartbeat, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's your opinion, and this is a safe place for your opinion. That's valid, because not everybody agrees with my opinion also. They find worth in it. They would not have a problem with bringing them in, and they think it would work. And I have no problem with them thinking that. Just like I'm probably going to say, yeah, I don't want to mess with this guy. I'd love to have his talent, but I don't want somebody messing with scheme and somebody that's going to be a problem. And we are going to talk more about what do you want to talk about after this. So start getting your questions in for the show as we wrap up. Most of the consensus says no Earl Thomas coming in. I don't think he's coming in anyways. I think he's going to the Dallas Cowboys, but stranger things have happened. Nobody thought Minkah would be coming here last year either. So we are going to wrap up part 1 of the Steeler Q&A. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to come on right back with part number 2. Get those questions in starting now. And we are back. My name is Brian Anthony Davis, along with Tony Defio. You have reached part 2 of the Steeler Q&A. In part 1, we established the fact that a consensus of our live chat would not want Earl Thomas or anybody that would cause discord in a locker room with the Pittsburgh Steelers. There were a few that did, and that's very respectable. No problem. I want to bring up Nunoendo, who loves my curtains. Gosh, my wife is going to be mad, because anytime somebody rips on the curtain, she takes it. She's the nicest person, but she takes that really seriously when she takes offense to that. And me, I mean, I don't care. I think they're normal curtains. I guess they're I'm a throwback guy, Tony, so I'm cool with that.
Right.
Big Marv's
curtains ever.
No curtains there. So it's like, Tony, I hope you don't walk around naked in the apartment.
Well, not after I put on 10 pounds.
Everyone's gonna see little Tony, and nobody needs that. Kathy says the curtains are almost as well known as bad, and you know what? These aren't even the ones in the living room that I used to do the show from the living room, and those curtains, they're really Brady Bunches, and I love them. Some friends in the show, Big Marv just checked in with his what's goody, and yes, the Beastie Boys are back for number 2, and we are going to go for about 10 to 15 more minutes. So this is the Steeler Q&A, and somebody brought it up to me after last week's show. It's like there wasn't too much Q&A, and I'm like, all right, you know what? We need to honor the name of the show, because hey, we're only going to be the Q&A for how many more weeks, Tony?
3 more weeks, or 2 more weeks, I guess. 2 more Mondays.
Yeah, so because next, in 21 days from now, we're going to be getting ready for the Steelers at the Giants with no fans. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. So let's go ahead and bring in some questions here. And let's start with Christian Cahill. Are you comfortable, Tony, with Mason at backup, or do you think we should bring in Blake Bortles?
Wow, if you're going down to Blake Bortles, then yeah, I'm definitely comfortable with Mason Rudolph. I'll take my chances with him at this point. If they seem comfortable with him, then they endorsed him all off season. They all gave him a vote of confidence, meaning Tomlin, Colbert, and the big man Art the second. So yeah, I'm comfortable.
The only thing I'm going to say about Mason is, you know me, I do want an established veteran, so I would probably say yes, bring on Blake Bortles. But the thing about Mason is they know more of what he is than we do. And the thing about Mason, they didn't have a plan last year. Even Ike said it on the interview the other day that, Ben's calling the plays. He said, I love Coach Randy to death, but, Ben's the one calling it. He's the one making those decisions. And when Ben went down, it seemed like it was way too much. And I don't feel that Mason Rudolph was properly prepared for it. I'm not saying it was all on him. I don't think the team properly prepared him for that as well. And I'm thinking this year that is probably something that they are looking at a whole lot more, that if disaster strikes again, that he's going to be more ready. Remember, that was basically his rookie season last year. So I would love to have a veteran in here, but I think you would see, and you've said this all along, Tony, that Mason Rudolph you're going to see a better version of Mason Rudolph. Hopefully you're not going to see too much of him, but you're going to see a better version in 2020. So I'm going to take you at your word for that.
Well, I mean, it's just an interesting thing to follow this year is he did have 10 games of experience last year, including 8 starts. So how does that translate into 2020? I mean, that's an interesting thing, because the only way you get better in this league is to play. I mean, these quarterbacks, these backup quarterbacks have to sit for sometimes years before they even see any action, and then we wonder why they struggle. Just to throw these guys in there, especially when they're young, and expect them to just pick everything up right away. I'm just interested to see what happens with him now, with an entire season of experience last year and an off season to make a leap.
I agree wholeheartedly there, Tony. Definitely do. Ronan says, and this is an easy one for me, do you think Canada is the leader in the clubhouse to be Randy's successor? All I have to do is just say yes, because I do think he is. Tony?
Well, I mean, Randy Fichtner is not Bruce Arians in terms of, like, him and Ben Roethlisberger aren't best buds. I mean, I'm sure they're close, and they've worked together for years when Fichtner was, an assistant coach. But would he really just walk away from $30 or $60 million if they said, look, we like Matt Canada, we don't think Fichtner's the guy, we want to go in a new direction, we're not going to tweak the offense all that much, but we think he's more innovative than Fichtner, so we're going to go with him. Do you think why wouldn't they? I'm not saying he can't be fired next year, but why wouldn't they have, if they really strongly believe that Matt Canada is a better offensive mind, why not just make the change? Bill Cowher changed coordinators all the time. Why wouldn't they just make the change right now if they thought he was the guy? I'm not saying he can't be in the future, but this stuff, like they said the same thing about Terrell Austin last year with him taking over for Keith Butler, and that never happened. So I don't know. I'm not saying I don't see it happening. I just don't see the conspiracy part of it. I don't think that's why they brought him in, to be the successor.
I'll disagree with you. I kind of think they brought him in, Tony, just to take a look to see if he's innovative enough that they want to look at him down the line. So let's go to Tom Vallejo, and I want to thank Kathy Forrid, who gave a shout out to Tom, said, hey, he had a good question. So I went back and found it. Sometimes I lose these, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Kathy. Tom says, what team do you feel has an offense that will give our defense problems? And they've got to be on the schedule, though. A team on the schedule.
Well, I'd say probably right now it would have to be, just because of the kind of year he had last year, and that would be the Ravens. I mean, they only saw him. They only saw Lamar Jackson once last year. They contained him really well, and again, they probably should have won that game. They just made some mistakes. But they didn't see him in the second half of the year or the second game at the end of the year. So I think that's somebody that could really, that's an offense that could really give them trouble because it's more complete now. They have more weapons, or their receivers are getting older, and of course Lamar's getting more experience. So yeah, I think if I had to pick one, it can't be the Chiefs since they're not on the schedule. It would have to be the Ravens.
All right, let's get some more questions in. This is the Steelers Q&A. And Tony, I mean, I want to jump in on this one too, on Tom Vallejo's question. But I do want to ask for more people to throw in their inquiries, and if I missed any, please let me know. I think the Denver Broncos, Tom, are a team that are going to give the Steelers some problems on offense. I did an article that is going to run sometimes this week, and it's about the schedule. And or did it already run? I don't even remember anymore. My brain is really hurting. But I just really don't see the Steelers having the easiest time with the Broncos like everybody else does. Because Drew Lock is that second-year quarterback that's ready to make the jump. And I remember when Pat Mahomes going into his, the Steelers home opener in week 2 against the Steelers in 2018, I went to, and I'm like, okay, they're going to destroy this kid. And, 6 touchdowns later, I'm like, whoa, this guy's for real. I'm not saying that Drew Lock's going to do that, but he has some nice weapons at receiver. He definitely has some very good running backs there. Melvin Gordon's there. Philip Lindsay's still there. I believe Reese Freeman's still there, if I'm not mistaken. They have a lot of talent on offense. That is not going to be a cakewalk. I think if they win that game, they win by a field goal. And I could see them possibly having more trouble than anybody would think. So I agree with you on Baltimore, but I'm going to throw Denver in there too. So let's look at Ezra here. Ezra asks, what should be our first play on offense when we play the Giants? Run to Connor, pass to Ebron, deep to Juju. I want the league to be on notice. Pass to Ebron for me. That's a great question, Ezra. What do you think, Tony?
Well, I mean, if we're talking sexy, then I'd say a play action pass a play action, fake it to Connor and throw it deep to Deontay Johnson or Juju. Yeah,
you know what? If you want to come out, and I'm going to quote Cartman, with authority. If you want to come out with authority and announce that you're back and you're Ben Roethlisberger and you're back, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to see you go deep on that secondary. It's not the worst secondary. It's not the best defense, but the secondary is probably their best unit on that defense. But they could get got. And I would love to see them get got on the first play to announce that Ben is back. $5 from Snowman, your Robin Masters there. Do you see guys? Do you guys see Devlin Duck Hodges making the team? Tony, what's your thoughts on this?
Based on what he did last year, again, the experience that he gained. Yeah, I could see him making the team. I'd say he's the favorite over Paxton Lynch. I know Lynch, a lot of people are starting to get higher on him because he's been here for a year and he has the pedigree. But I'd say they probably feel comfortable enough with Hodges to keep him around as their number 3. They can always sign somebody if injuries are a factor. So I think he's going to make the team.
And you always have the practice squad as well. And that is, there's going to be 16 guys on the practice squad. Eligibility doesn't matter this year. You can put, heck, if they wanted to put a Wendell Smallwood, who's been around a while, or they want to put a 10-year veteran on the practice squad, they can. Not that they're going to want to do that, but they could. Really interesting question. Tom says, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. A team that's on our schedule. I live here in Texas. I've been hearing that the Cowboy coaches are saying they have enough playmakers to blow out teams. They have playmakers, but I love when the Cowboys are favored. And when everybody says the Cowboys are going to go crazy, because they really, I mean, they disappoint in the end. That's a team that shouldn't have blown it last year too. That's a weird organization. Port Naquenba, what are the chances the coronavirus impacts the NFL such that we see a recreation of the Steagles team of 1943? And who would be the starting QB, Wentz or Ben? Port Naquenba.
That's pretty.
That is an amazing question. I think I would love to do an entire podcast on that. And I could see me bringing that up to Dave and Jeff, saying, "Hey, I'm going to do one on what if we were the Steagles?" Hey, there's your next article, Tony. That's a really good one.
That's some really abstract thinking right there. I never even considered that. What I think is going to happen, I think it's encouraging that we've made it this far, except for the false positives, without having a massive breakout. That tells me the testing is working for the most part, and that these players are being responsible. If there's a massive outbreak on a team in the regular season, I see no choice but for them to forfeit that week's game. They're not going to shut the entire league down, I don't think, and you can't just have double headers in the NFL. So I think that's how they would handle it. If there's a outbreak that they can't field enough players for one team, they'll just have to forfeit.
Okay, let's have fun with this real quick. Carson Wentz or Ben? Who are you taking?
Well, I'm obviously going to take Ben. I mean,
I'm taking Ben too.
Yeah.
I really am. Short leash if he's not altogether healed, but I would go with Ben. Miles Sanders or James Conner?
I think I'm going to go with Sanders. I think he's a more explosive player.
I'm going Sanders. Here's a good one. Zach Ertz or Vance McDonald and Eric Ebron.
Oh, over both of them? Oh, I have to take the two-headed monster over. I think he's better than both of them, but I think they may have the best tight end combo in the league if Ebron returns to his Pro Bowl form and Vance returns to his 2018 form.
Okay, now this is really interesting too, and we're not going to do defense because we're just having a quick fun with this. Andre Dillard versus Villanueva. I'm taking Villanueva. Isaac Seumalo over Matt Filer. I don't know much about Seumalo, so probably going to go Filer. Here's a good one. Jason Kelsey or Marquise Pouncey.
Oh, I'm not a fan of the Kelsey family, so I'm gonna go with Pouncey.
I might go Kelsey there. Jason Peters versus DeCastro. I'm always going DeCastro, and you got to go Lane Johnson at right tackle.
Right.
Sorry, Hulk Banner, I love you, but I'm going Lane Johnson there. That was actually really fun. I was not expecting that. Portna, you really threw us on that one. That was a great one. Some people are saying Kelsey, some people are saying Pouncey. Everybody's saying Ertz. That's really interesting. So, hey, that was a lot of fun. Thanks everybody who got in on the Q&A. I don't see any more questions there. Ronan wanted to know who was the coach. That's the deciding factor. I'm keeping Mike Tomlin.
Well, didn't the Steagles? They kept both of their coaches. So yeah, that's probably what they would do.
It could be like remember the Titans.
yeah, exactly.
You could have Coach Boone on. Was Coach Boone? He let's see. He was the offensive coordinator, and who was Will Patton's? What was Will Patton's character's name?
Oh,
gosh, no, I can't remember that. So it doesn't matter, but it could be just like remember the Titans there. But Portna says keep both and get rid of Fietner. And Donald Nolan says it's Okorafor, not Banner bad. I still think it's Banner, but we will find out. They're having a heck of a battle. That's going to go to the very end.
That's only a good thing. It's only a good thing that they're having such a great competition.
And speaking of the very end, this is the very end of the Q&A. So thanks for everybody. We cannot do this without our good friends in the live chat. Make sure you download our podcast and give us a 5-star rating. Make sure you catch us here next week with the Q&A. But Tony and I will be back tomorrow morning on really the streaming platform only, the podcasting platform only. So audio only for the Steeler Retro Show. And Tony, where are we putting the black and gold DeLorean? Where are those time circuits going to?
The year 2002. I didn't even have a cell phone back then.
Really, I think I was just getting one. Yeah, Browns and Steelers. So check that out tomorrow morning. That's going to be a good show because it's that wild card game. It's a really good one. So for everybody, thank you once again. Make sure you check out Let's Ride in the mornings. Make sure you check out the Scobro Show tomorrow night and all of the shows on the BTSC family of podcasts. For Tony Defio, my name's Brian Anthony Davis. And to quote the great Rowdy Roddy Piper, the late great Rowdy Roddy Piper, just when you think you've got all the answers,
we keep changing the questions. Thanks a lot, everybody.